Good morning. Welcome to AP Computer Science A. Today we are going to go over section 1.1, output in Java. And this will be our first program that we are going to be coding. And we are going to be using Replit for IDE. So therefore, let's go into Replit. This will be the main page that you guys will be familiar with. Now, at this point, you should already have your account. So if not, just go ahead and make one. Make sure that you guys use your school email and your school password. So that way you have quick access to it. Now, if you want to be able to share some of your code with me, then my name is at DS5, David DS5. So David DS5, don't forget the little 5 in there. So I'm not number 1, not number 2, not number 3, not number 4, but David DS5. So let's go and create our first program. We are going to click on the little plus sign, and that is going to ask us for a few things. First, it's going to ask for the language. So in this class, we are going to be coding in Java. So I'm going to select Java. Then for the name, you want to make sure that you have a name that you can reference back to. So in this case, we're going to do notes section 1.1 will be the title. And then you're going to click on create Replit. You want to make sure that it's public, so that way whenever you share with Mr. Diaz, I can access, and then we can actually code together and collaborate. So now I'm going to click on create Replit. And this will be the 3 main screens that you guys will have. So the first one is just your files. Now for the first few sections, we are just going to have one file, which in Replit they like to just call it main. But in any other software, you actually get to name the file that you want. Once you go into Unit 2, we actually are going to have 2 files, 3 files, 4 files, and actually that might not be until Unit 5. But for now, you guys will see that this is the list of files that we have. We are dealing with only one file. And on your computer, if you're using a different IDs, BlueJ or Eclipse, you guys will see that this will be the name of the file. And notice that it's going to be main.java, or it might be student.java, chieftain.java. That'll be the name of the file that will be saved in your hard drive. We are doing an online IDE, so therefore we to actually see the files. And we have other components. This is where we're going to be typing in the code. And this will be your output screen, and also will be able to give you the errors that you encounter. So in Java, it's a compiled language, so therefore it's going to compile. It's going to look at your entire code. Then it's going to tell you whether you have any errors that you need to be able to fix before you actually start to run it. So it's going to compile, look at the errors that you have, any of the syntax errors that you have, maybe misspellings, maybe you forgot the semicolon in there. And this is the code. Notice that Eclipse will give you the main starting, and a lot of the IDEs will give you the main starting as well. In this case, Replit also give you a starter code, and they actually just give you everything that we need for this lesson. So let's go back and let's go and delete this part. And actually I'm gonna go and delete. I'm gonna select all, and I'm gonna delete everything so we can start from scratch. So usually whenever we do coding in a BlueJ or Eclipse, we usually just delete everything first, so that way we have a little more sense of what's happening. Now, it gets a little more challenging because some of the things that we're going to type, we don't get to actually know what they're for, not until Unit 2 or 3. So just hang in there. So the first thing that we're going to do is public. And notice that in Replit, they actually don't do typing the word public. But for sense, we're going to do public, then class, and then the name of the class. So whether it's students or anything else. So let me make myself a little smaller. There. And now we are going to type in class, and the name of the class in this case for Replit is going to be always main. We're going to place a brace, and notice that automatically as soon as I open a brace, Replit will actually place that closing brace for us. It's very nice of them, right? So therefore, I'm gonna press enter, and I want my brace can be here, but sometimes for our starting code, we're going to place it here on line number 2. I'm gonna move to the right, and then I'm gonna press enter several times. So this will be a block of code, what we call a block of code. That's going to be in there. And notice that they're going to line up, so therefore they'll be line up one brace with another. I'm gonna go over to line number 4. I'm gonna press tab, and it's going to tab about 3 spaces. Sometimes people might do 5. But in this case, it's already preset to do 3, so we'll keep it at 3. And now, public, static, void, main. And now, at this point, you might be asking, okay, DS, what is this all about? Well, we actually don't get to talk to some of the about some of these components. So your public, that means that anybody can use it. We talk about static, but not to unit 2, and then come back to unit 5. Void, we'll talk about that later. Main is the name of the method. So this is the name of the method. Notice that in Replit, the class name is main, and the method, or what they usually call in other languages, the function, it's also called main. So this will always be main. We always need a main to be able to let Java know what they need to run first. And inside the parentheses, we are going to type in string, bracket, and notice actually in Java, when you open a bracket, what does it do? It closes it for you. And then args. Once again, we are not going to talk about strings in the little bracket. The little bracket means there's going to be an array of strings, an array of words. And args will be the name of the array, but for now, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to even know what it does. Not until later. Now I'm going to go to the next line. I'm going to open, and notice that automatically it closes it for me. So as soon as I open it, I'm going to press tab, tab, tab. So enter, enter, enter. And now this is our method. This is starting on line number 4 all the way to 9. It's going to be our method, and that is going to be a block. That's where we're going to type in all the instructions for now. So now, well, first, I'm going to go, notice that as soon as I go to the next line, it takes me here. I'm going to tap, and now I'm going to start typing my code there. It has to be indented. We'll talk about that in a minute. And our first program is, yes, it's going to be output into the screen, so we're going to output the words hello world. That's usually the more typical first program that everybody writes. So it's going to be system.out. Now, Replit will give you all this stuff that you can use. So don't get overwhelmed, because like, okay, what does this all mean? So for now, we're just going to do system.out.println. We're going to open your parentheses, and we are going to type inside a message. Notice I'm going to place it in quotation mark, and we're going to type in hello world. I can move to the right twice, or I can type in my closing quotation mark, my closing parentheses, and then my semicolon. So let me go and I'm going to delete 1 space and 2 spaces. So therefore I just have the one statement in the block of code, in the method. So let's talk about a few things that's happening here. So first, this is something that you need to be able to memorize. This hello world that's in quotation mark, that's called a literal string. And we're going to talk about variable strings later on. But that is what's going to be printed. And every statement in Java has to be ending with a semicolon. So notice that if it's part of either you have a semicolon or otherwise we end up with an open and a close brace, or we'll call it curly brace. And that's it. So now we can actually just go ahead and press run. So I'm up here, I'm gonna click on run. And when it runs, it's going to output to the screen. So let me go and click on run. And there we go, we have Hello World. So this is our first program that we've done so far. Isn't that exciting? This is the first time we actually are coding the computer to do something that we wanted to do. We usually just click, 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 click. But every time you click too low on your phone or on the computer, that is that a programmer actually typed everything in to make whatever clicked, whatever function that it makes, they actually programmed it. For you, your first program is Hello World. But let's talk about a few more things. So let's say we are going to do another output. So we have system.out.println, and we are going to say Santa Fe High School. And notice I'm going to place a semicolon. So let me go ahead and move this a little further to the left so we can actually see that whole line of code. There we go. Our files are still up there. And now I have two lines. So whenever you use the method println, that what's going to do is going to print hello world, and then it's going to go to the next line. And now we are going to print Santa Fe High School, and then it's going to go to the next line after printing the word. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on run. And now it says hello world, and then on the next line it says Santa Fe High School. Now if you want to print on the same line, then what we need to do, we need to be able to change this to just print. So print, if I run it, if I place ln for line, then it's just going to print everything in one line. So notice that it prints hello world, and then in the same line is Santa Fe High School, because you did not tell it to go to the next line. So there are two different commands they need to be able to distinguish. So let's go back and place ln. And now I'm going to go to the very end, I'm going to press enter again. Remember that you want to be able to place your code inside this block. You cannot place it on line 10, 11, or 12, because that is out of the block of your main method. So anything that you print must be in this section. And now let's go and print system.out.print, and you're going to print your name, first and last name. So let's go and print your first name first. My name is David. And now I'm going to do one more to say system.out.println. And then at this point saying, hold on, can we just type it in one line? Yeah, but let's go and type in two different lines so we can have a little discussion about what happens. So therefore, how many lines is it going to print in? It's going to print in 4 different lines. Do you guys agree? So therefore, if I press run, you'll be hello world, Santa Fe High School, David Diaz. But now, what if I want David Diaz to be on the same line? I have two options. I can place an extra space, I can place Diaz here, or I can actually, if I get rid of the ln in here, that means that it's not going to, after it prints David, it's not going to print a return line and print Diaz. It's going to print David and then right next to it Diaz. So let's go and press run. It's going to compile it and run it at the same time. And notice that now it says David Diaz. But what should I do? I should have an extra space in there, right? So let's go and place an extra space in there. So now it'll provide the extra space that we need for, and now for for the after DS. Now sometimes you'll see that's happening, that it kind of runs. You just have to be patient. It automatically saves it for you. So if you want to refresh, that's always an option. So let me just go and click on run, and we have hello world, Santa Fe High School, David Diaz. Where's my extra space? Where is my extra space that I need? Let's run it again. Let me just refresh, just like I said sentence. If I refresh it, and then fail to connect. Oh, there you go. So now notice that sometimes it does look connection, so you just have to be a little more patient. So that's one of those disadvantages of using a online IDE. If you lose connection, it might not register the changes. So notice I did not register my space in there. So let's go and place a space that I wanted, and now I am going to run it and see what it does. There we go. So hello world, Santa Fe High School, David Diaz. And notice that now we have the space in between. Now, what if we want to skip a line between Santa Fe High School and David Diaz? So what if I want an extra space or an extra line right here? So what if I want the extra line? What should I do? Or how can I achieve that? So pause it, see if you can figure that out. How can I make an extra line after Santa Fe High School? Go and pause it. Correct. So one of the ways that we can do it, I know some of you guys say, well, I can just make an extra line in here and then run it. And let's see if it does it. It's thinking. And notice that, no, that did not provide me with the additional line that I wanted. So the fact that you place an additional line in between does not mean that it's going to give you an additional line on your code. What we need to do, we are going to do system.out.println, and we're going to leave it blank. So basically it's just going to do a blank line. Now if you just do print, it doesn't do anything because it's not going to give you the extra return that you need. So therefore you need that ln. And that's how you're going to be able to provide a way to place lines, blank lines in between your output, just by typing in the system.out.println. Now let's talk about a few more things. In Java, the spacing doesn't really matter. Everything is what we call a white space. So if actually I take the time and if I delete this and I place this all together, if I take the time to delete all, will that make a difference without deleting an additional? So if I just delete all, does it make a difference? Or even if I place this one here, in Java, all the white space does not matter. So therefore, if I delete all the white space and I have everything compiled up, will it still run? So I'll place this up here. I'll place this up here. And I just click on run. Hopefully I did not delete any parentheses. I almost did. So notice that it doesn't really matter. All the white space is not for the computer. The white space is for us. The white space is for us to be able to read it a little more careful. So as you guys are working through this, it is essential that you keep it legible. And that's what we call programming style, where your spaces doesn't matter to the computer, but it matters to the programmers. So therefore, noticing that Replay does a really good job because it actually gives you the little extra line that tells you that that lines up. And notice that in this case, I should do an extra delete because there you go. That's more like that wasn't line enough. So notice that it should be lined up. And notice that we have your public, it's here, and then I press an extra tab, so everything else should be indented. Questions? There are two more things that we need to talk about. One is comments. So we're going to just start to talk today about comments. So sometimes we need to be able to kind of give a little comment about what the code will be. So therefore we place 2 forward slashes. When you place a forward slash, Java will know that it's a comment. So whatever you type in here is not, it's just going to skip it. It's not going to read it. It knows that it's a comment for other programmers to know what's happening. So this is my first program. Hooray. And that will do for today. In your notes, you want to make sure, first you want to make sure that you save this code. And all of you guys should have your packet for your notes. And on your notes, they'll be talking about 3 types of syntax errors. So for example, let's if I by any chance forget that there's a semicolon at the very end, when I run it, it's going to give me an error. And did it run? Let me refresh. Sometimes it gets a little stuck, especially if your connection is not as fast as I want it to. So there are 3 types of errors that you're going to read about on your notes. The first one is your syntax error. The syntax error is basically that if you forget to place a semicolon, just like I did here, and you run it, then when it compiles, Java is going to say, hold on, there's something going on. And it's going to tell you that there's an error. And notice that it does tell you that the error, it happened on line number 10. So on line number 10, there's an error. And sometimes you'll be very specific. Say, hold on, we are expecting a semicolon. Sometimes it will not be very specific on what's missing. So you have to kind of debug it. We'll talk about more debugging later on. So therefore, that was called a syntax error. Then we have what we call a runtime error. And we'll talk about that in section 1.3. And then we have logical errors that we'll also talk about that later. But at least for now, you can get a chance to read through it. So this will conclude for section 1.1. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.